Hey, this is Phil from Race City Retro, and today I'm going to talk about something very near and dear to my heart. I'm going to show you how to install one of our Stars and Stripes Tach Kit, or Tachometer Kit, depending on what you like to call it. We've probably been making these kits over 10 years now, maybe longer. I'm an old guy, so 10 years to an old guy is like that. I still think a 1995 car is a late model. But probably a little longer than that now. And how this came about, years ago, I was building a 55 Chevy Gasser, and I wanted a Stars and Stripes tachometer for the top of the dash so you could see it through the windshield. The Stars and Stripes tachometer was made by a company called Dixco in the 70s. They had I guess it was some type of sponsorship deal with Garlitz. And although I don't ever remember seeing one in any of his race cars, they tied his name into the Stars and Stripes tachometer. Very popular in muscle cars. A lot of old street rods used to have them. Tri-5s used to have them. Gassers. It was more a 70s tach, not a 60s tach. It came about, I believe, in the very early 70s. So I set out on a mission to find one for my 55. Not this 55, a 55 I was building years ago. And I actually did. I go to a ton of swap meets a year. I found some very rusty ones. I found some banged up ones, broken lenses. They were all horrible. I didn't want to use any one of them. So I said to myself, why don't you just paint one up to look just like the Stars and Stripes tach? Okay, so after many, started with white on the cup, masked it off, painted the red, had to get some vinyl stars cut, put them on, painted the blue. It was about a week's worth of work for this little tach. I said, man, it's cool, but way too much work. I said, there's gotta be an easier way. So in cutting the white vinyl stars, I said, why can't I just make a kit with the red and white stripes? The blue can't do in vinyl because it's a cup. It's the end of the tach. You can't wrap vinyl around a round area like that. It would be like trying to wrap an apple in tin foil and trying to get no wrinkles in it. It's gonna wrinkle up. So I said, okay, I'll paint just the blue. A lot easier. So I come out with the Stars and Stripes Tach Kit, which you're going to see in a second. Very easy to do. The main thing about our kit is you pick the right tack for it. Let me show you how the tack that I've been using for years, which I don't even know if it's still available. They were always available, but now, even though they're in my brand new Summit catalog, when you go on the website, it shows it's not available. So I don't know if they're out of inventory on them or if they're going to get them back in. But let me show you what the Stars and Stripes Tach Kit is all about. Okay, here's our Race City Retro Stars and Stripes Tach Kit. And what this consists of, you don't get a tack, you don't get paint. What you do get is you get the stripes, and this is a wraparound decal that's going to go around the cup of the tach, and the stars. What we do is we've done the stars in two sizes now. You get both with the kit. And we have guys that like the smaller stars. They may have a smaller tach that you don't have as much blue area to place them. Then we have guys that like the bigger stars because they're closer to the original tach. So we give you both. I've even seen guys mix the stars. We'll do some big, some small, mix it up, fill it out real good. And this is the tach that I use. This is the Bosch FST 8000. And why I like this tach, the face looks just like an old Sun tach, and it's got a chrome cup that's perfect for this. Now, I'm going to pull this tach out, and I'm going to show you how to install one of these kits on this tach. Now, the question we get asked a lot, too, when people see our tachs done is, what color blue do you like for the end of the tach? And what I've been using for years is Krylon Fusion, all-in-one. And let me fix that a little. All-in-one means it's got prime and paint together. You don't have to prime it. You could paint that right over the chrome cup. But I always recommend scuffing the cup, which you'll see when I prepare the cup for paint. After the cup gets painted, then it's just a matter of sticking on the stripes and the stars. All right, so let me pull this tack out. We'll get a better look at this tack, and I'll show you what's involved with the installation. It's really easy, man. It'll fit a multitude of tacks. Basically, all tachometers are the same. They have about a 3-inch barrel. I've also had customers where they'll cut this down shorter and use the smalls, and they'll do the smaller gauges as well. They'll do like the 2 and 5/8 cups with it. But the main thing you're looking for when you choose a tack, you want to tack with a smooth cup and you want to tack with a solid back. If you look at a lot of the tacks, they have holes for a light or something like that. You want it where you're going to see that blue strip with the stars going around it. This tack's neat because you get the both brackets. You get a flat mount for the top of your dash, and you get a bent one for a column if you want to put it on your steering column. Let me pull that tack out and we'll get a better look at it. Yeah, the reasons that I love this tack is because it's got the perfect cup to do this. And it's just a great kit. Like I said, they give you those 2 brackets. They give you a clamp for your column, the rubber for the clamp. It's really a nice setup. But if you can't get this one, there's a lot of other companies that make similar tacks. I know Autometer makes like a retro tack. Classic Instruments makes a retro tack. So just hunt around. And a lot of the old tacks have metal chrome cups like this. But one of the easiest ways to install this kit is to take the tack apart. And when you take it apart, you'll have the cup in your hand. And then at that point, you could paint the cup. Let's pull this tack apart and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so now on this particular tack, it has a 9/16 nut. And generally with the nuts that hold the brackets on are usually where the wires pass through once you wire it. So there's like an internal bar that sandwiches all this together. So you're going to hear something drop when you take this off, if this is the tack you're using. The backing plate for this thing will drop in a second. Here we go. Let me spin it. There it goes. Here. This will come out. See, that's where the nuts will pass through that. All right, so see, here's your choice. When you put this thing back together, you can pick either the flat bottom, if you're mounting it, flat to your dashboard, or if you're putting it on a steering column, it gives you this rounded one, so you could use they give you like a big radiator hose type clamp to clamp it down to the column. All right, so there's your middle pieces, and now these 2 nuts will hold the cup itself on. Let's take those off, and don't lose those. Little 5/16 action. Okay, there's one. Looks like they have lock washers on them also. And you'll notice I put a towel down to do this. It's a brand new tack. Even though you're working on a wood table, it could be dirt and stuff in there, metal scraps, whatever. So, try and work with caution. Don't scratch your brand new stuff up. There's those 2. And these 2 little baby, let's roll this over. Get those to fall off. There we go. Okay, and like I said, this is the piece that tube nut goes into, and that's what locks that to that. But this is the cup. This is where we're going to do our install on. And then this is the tack. And see, this tack will go anywhere from a 1-cylinder to a 10-cylinder. And this is where you wire it up. You run your wires through the center and then put your cup back on. Now, one of the things you want to think about that I do, if you look at this cup, you'll see this flare up on the end. The decal's not going to flare up. The decal's going to go right up to the flare. And what this flare is, if you look at the side view, it just catches the bezel. So one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to run a tape line over that flare, because when I paint this cup blue, I don't want a blue stripe after my red and white stripe. Basically, I want the end of this blue, and then this decal is going to go around and put the stripes on it. See what I'm saying? So your blue will be exposed, and that's where your stars go on the back. All right, so see, it's starting to look like it already. Ain't that cool? And these you could trim to whatever size. If you have a tack that's deeper, you have a little extra. If you have a tack that's shorter, you can cut this down however you like to cut it. This is your project. You do it how you want to do it. But now what we're going to do now is we're going to prep this for paint, and I'm going to paint this with the Fusion. All right, and this is chrome, it's steel. So when you paint stuff, if you don't scuff it up, if I were to just paint this right the way it sits now, over time, it's going to chip, it's going to come off, it's going to flake off. Paint always has to have something to bite to. So, but we don't want to scratch the heck out of this thing with really deep scratches. So we're going to use something light. We're just going to scuff this with a Scotch-Brite pad. But before I do that, I'm going to stick a piece of tape on this outer edge to leave this chrome. I don't want paint on that lip, because when I put my stripes on, I want to have that chrome lip going up to the chrome bezel, so it looks pretty cool. All right, let me tape this down first, this edge, then I'll scuff up the remaining chrome stuff and get this baby ready for paint. I wonder if I have any tape around. Tape. Where'd all my tape go? Oh, yeah. Okay, that should work. Okay, so I'm going to put a little of this. This is blue fine line tape, they call it. And I like this tape because it stretches really good. And what I'll do is I'll probably put two laps of it on here. I'll put like an inner and an outer. And you're not looking to make a straight line because the decal is going to cover that edge. I'm just looking to keep the blue paint off this area. And then when we put the decal on there, you won't even notice where this line starts and ends. So if you run this around, they call this fine line tape, 3M makes it. I love 3M products because they work. You pay a little more, but it's nice to get it right the first time, then save a couple bucks and have to do things over and over again. All right, so let's get that up and over. We'll put this on top. Lock that one down. There we go. All right, and then I'll put one more around the outer edge just to keep any paint off that part. And then we're ready to scuff. That's another reason I like this tape, because it's made of vinyl. This is what I'll use, like flaming a car or a motorcycle gas tank to lay an outline. It's pretty durable. All right, so now we're around both sides. And this stuff's nice. You could just break it pretty easy. Let's tuck this edge. All right. That's good. Okay, see what I'm saying? I just want to keep the blue paint off this edge, because when I put the decal on this way, I still have a little chrome showing. I don't want blue, red, white, and then another blue line over here. But if that's what you like, you do it your way. Don't ever let anybody tell you how to build your car. All right, let me get a Scotch-Brite. I'll give this thing a scuffing. Then we're going to clean it before paint too. Okay, let's go over our tip of the day here. Whenever you're going to paint anything, as I prepare the cup to be painted, you have to prepare properly. Preparation is 90% of the job, and the actual painting is 10% of the job. That's an old saying that you'll hear. Everybody thinks you just clean it, paint it, and go. But if that's the way you're going to do things, your results aren't going to come out as you'd like them to come out. And when you talk about sanding, the reason we sand things before we prime or paint things is the paint has to have something to bite onto. If the surface was completely smooth, the paint would not adhere properly to the surface. And although it may look good at first, over time it's going to chip, it's going to peel, it's not going to last. When we do things, we want to do things once, do them right, and have things last. You don't want to keep doing it over and over and over because you rush the preparation. In sanding items, you'll often hear the term grit. If you've never dealt with sandpaper before, what grit means is that's the roughness of the paper. And the lower the number, the rougher the paper, the higher the number, the finer the sandpaper. And when I say sandpaper, I mean the grit system doesn't matter if it's a disc, if it's a sheet of sandpaper, if it's a roll. Grit is universal. It just tells you how rough is the paper you're about to use. Now, this is a 36 grit disc. And what this is, just about as rough as you can get. This is going to put major scratches in the metal. But what this is designed for is it's designed to remove things fast and easy without burning the paper out. You would use this on rusty areas, very thick paint, something where you want to just chomp it off quickly. You would not use this on the tack cup we're about to sand. After you sand this rough, you either have to put a heavy primer on it to fill the scratches or something, because if you painted right over something that you just sanded with 36 grit, it's going to look horrible. You're going to see every sanding scratch that you just made is going to show right through, because the paint's going to just embed itself right in those deep scratches. But this is super rough. If you rub this long enough, it's going to break your skin open. That's how rough this is. Now in the middle, this is an 80 grit. So this is nowhere near as rough as this, but it's still plenty rough. This would be a little finer sanding, not where you need to strip things as abruptly and as quickly as the 36 grit, but it'll still do a good job and knock things off quick. Now to the right, we go with a 120 grit, which is finer than the 80. So this is a scenario where you don't need to be as rough as 80. As you sand things, like when you do body work on a car, once we get into that, here I'll start to show you guys as I work on our Project 55 Chevy. I'll show you how grits come into play when you're preparing a car for paint, because generally you're going to start stripping with this, you're going to work in between and get your way up to the fine stuff. When you paint something, you really don't want anything rougher than like 300 grit, which these aren't the only 3 grits. These numbers keep going up and up and up till you get into like paint sanding paper, which is 1,000 grit and 1,500 grit. I believe nowadays, I think it goes up to 3,000 grit, which if you had a sheet of 3,000 grit paper and you rubbed your finger on it, you would say, why even bother? This feels like a smooth sheet of paper, but it's not. It does have very small, very fine grit, which will polish paint to perfection. If you want something to shine, it has to be smooth. A mirror is just a polished piece of glass that's so smooth you see your reflection in it. So when we do this preparation, doing the tack cup for our paint that we're about to do, we're not going to use any of these because these are all too coarse. That's the terminology. Coarse is rough, fine is less coarse. So this would be coarse 36, whereas like 1,000 sheet of sandpaper would be fine. What I like to use, which is a good all-around prep tool, something similar to sandpaper, is a Scotch-Brite pad. See that? Scotch-Brite. 3M, once again, you're seeing a pattern here. This is a steel wool pad. And what happens with this is it lightly prepares the surface but doesn't leave huge scratches that any of these 3 are going to leave. This is a great tool to have in your arsenal when you're prepping stuff with paint that doesn't need major paint removal, major straightening. Get yourself a box of these. They come in a case, and keep them around, because a lot of the jobs you'll do in the garage, this is abrasive enough. It's not super abrasive, but it's abrasive enough to set things up properly where you could do a good paint job. It's not going to show deep scratches, and it's going to make the paint bite onto whatever it is that you sand with this. And the nice thing about this, why I like using it on this, is it's very flexible. See, you could sand things, it flexes, gives you a lot of contact area, where a sheet like this, yeah, it's flexible, but it's a lot harder. And we don't want to put these deep scratches in this. We just want to scuff it, knock the shine off it here, just to get the new paint to bite on it. So today's job, I'll be using a Scotch-Brite, and this is probably somewhere in the 300 grit area. They do make different grit Scotch-Brites too. You can get a red Scotch-Brite. I think they have a white Scotch-Brite. This is the green Scotch-Brite. It's probably one of the best all-around ones you can use. So I'm going to scuff this up and we'll go from there. But that's your tip of the day. So I just gave this cup a sanding with our Scotch-Brite pad, scuffed it down, scuffed it up, however you want to talk about that. Actually, oh, look, I got to get in there a little better. I missed those spots. See that? All right, I'll fish those out with my finger and the Scotch-Brite. But this is the sheen you're looking for. See little light scratches? It takes that chromy look off it. This is perfect. When I paint this blue, you're not going to see those scratches. The paint's going to fill in, and it'll give it something good to hold on to so that for years to come, if you're going to mount this thing on your dashboard, you don't want it, a year from now, paint flaking off it because you didn't take the time to sand it properly. Now, normally, if you were using a paint that required a primer, you'd put a primer on this, and then what I would do is I would even scuff the primer lightly before I put the paint on. The other main thing, remember, before you paint, make sure this thing is clean. See how I'm handling it? Your fingertips always have oils. If you don't clean this with some type of liquid cleaner, if you have wax and grease remover, that's great, but it's very expensive. It's about 50 bucks a gallon now. What you can use is even like a good sprayway glass cleaner. That'll get it clean. Once you get it clean, make sure it's dry and do not handle it anymore. Or if you're gonna handle it, make sure you put some rubber gloves on so that you don't get any more of your fingerprint oil in it. Because what'll happen is if I keep rubbing in this thing and I paint without cleaning it, you're gonna see fish eyes from the oil in my finger. There'll be little dots in the paint. The paint won't adhere to those sections. We don't want that. We want conformity. We want the paint to grab good, to dry good. You want to paint in a clean area. If you're painting in a dirty area, get yourself a big box. Make a little spray cabinet and put the piece in the box. You could paint it in the box. And always when you paint, try and elevate what it is you're painting. Put it on something so you can get down low. If you have it down here, it's going to want to push the paint down and make it run. If you put it on top of a box, you could see everything you're painting. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the spots I missed. See, but that's why we look at things. And then I'm going to clean this up with some wax and grease remover. And I'm going to put a coat of blue, Fusion all in one. That's the one we use. Gloss Patriotic Blue. Good piece. You could buy this at Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, most home improvement stores, anybody that sells Krylon near you. But that's a really good blue. You'll see when it's done, it's got a nice look. It goes great with the red and white on it. I have my cup all in position, ready to paint. I've wiped it down with Summit Wax and Grease Remover. This is what I use, SUM-UP404G. You can get it on their website. I'll put a link in the comments down below. And one more thing, when you're wiping down stuff with wax and grease remover, it's a two-part process. You wipe it with one paper towel wet with the wax and grease remover. You wipe it with a second paper towel dry to get the residue off. Also, make sure if you're using cheap paper towels that leave a lot of lint, get the lint off this thing before you paint it, unless you want fuzzy paint with lint sticking out of it. So give it a good look close up. I'm going to paint this thing now. I'm going to shut the camera because you're not going to understand me with my respirator on while I paint. And I'll be right back. We're going to give it one light coat. Let it bite, and then we're going to let it dry a little bit and put a second coat on it. Be right back. Oh, yeah. There you go, guys. I got it out in the sun now, getting hard, cooking. This way it bakes it on real good. And yes, that is glass finish. That's the reflection of the sky, the clouds you see. Looks really, really good. I love that color blue. Gonna let it dry for a little while. And once it's done, we'll start working on the decal. Just make sure if you go to pick it up, if it sits out in the sun a while, you don't burn your hands. Pick it up by the box. Looks good, right? Look at the reflection of the sky in that thing. Came out like glass. All right, stay tuned. Stripe is next. Now the fun part, getting this vinyl on. Woohoo! Don't be nervous. It's not so bad. It's easy to work with when you do it right. If you look at the back of this cup, okay, see how the two bolt holes are lower than the top? So this thing's got a bottom and it's got a top. So one of the things I did that I should have mentioned earlier, before you take your tack apart, take notice to that. And reason being, when you put the stripe on, we're going to start the seam on the bottom so that you don't see it end on the top. So it'll be hidden by the dash, the column, whatever, and the top will just be nice and smooth. Whenever you're doing vinyl on anything, never put it on dry unless you like looking at a ton of bubbles. A lot of times you'll get bubbles, but if you use some soapy water, you can work them out. This is a squeegee, plastic squeegee. You could use a credit card. You could use anything to smooth. This is a bottle of water, and when this is full, I'll put about 10 drops. And when I say drops, just a drop of Dawn dish detergent. That's what gives it that little blue color. And what you're doing with that is when I spray this, so the back of the vinyl, it gives me time to work. It's not going to stick to it immediately, so that if it gets stuck in the wrong spot, you're going to rip it off and wreck it. Basically, what that's going to do is buy you time. But whenever you put vinyl decals on with soapy water, here's one rule. You cannot get the backing paper wet because you'll ruin the decal. When this gets wet, it just sticks to the decal. When you peel it, it's not going to want to come off. And if you stick it on with a blob on there, you're going to see a big bump. So I'm going to try and do this nice and slow and easy. All right. Well, I guess we could keep this towel. It's going to get a little wet, but that's not a big deal. All right. So first thing I like to do when I do these, I'm going to peel the backing off of the decal. And you'll see it's got a clear top and it's got a blue back. This is the piece, the back, you don't want to get wet. So let's get that out of the way. Okay. Now you're looking at the back of the decal. Don't get it dirty. Don't get anything on it. Start working fast from here. And once we get that on there, we're going to take the top off, and then you're just going to be working with the decal itself. So let's do a little, let me spray this out. Make sure it's, there we go. Let's get a little soapy water on this. Go all the way around. Don't be stingy with it. Soapy water on this. And now if you feel more comfortable pulling the decal off the backing, at this point you can, because the soapy water, even if the decal touches the decal, it'll come right apart. So take your time peeling this though. Don't overstretch the decal. See what I'm doing? Go nice and slow. So I like to take them off ahead of time. To me, it's a little easier to work, but see how I'm going slow? I don't want to rip the decal. I don't want to stretch it all out either. All right, this is just the way I like to do them. You may like to do them differently, but now make sure the back of the decal's not drying too as you're doing this. See, this vinyl is pretty thick. You have 2 layers of it too. And see, by that soapy water being on the back, even though my hands are touching it, I'm not going to ruin the glue. It'll still go on nicely. All right, so, and if you overstretch this, if you pull this thing like a madman and overstretch it, that's not good either. All right, so there's the decal. Let's spray it up again, because it can dry just in the time we were talking there. Let's spray that up again. If you get anything on it from your hands, like I just did, just flick it out. Okay, and what I'll do is I put the red along the bottom to the top. And now don't forget what I just told you. Let's line this up on the bottom. All right, so now we've made our loop. Okay, I'm going to push this up first. Now see what I mean, how I masked that because I didn't want blue coming out. And now this lines up perfect. If your cup was longer, you may have a little blue sticking out. If your cup was shorter, you may even have to trim that a bit. So what I've done so many of these, I know exactly how wide this is. I know exactly how wide this tack is. But in the beginning, you might want to measure, see what you're working with. All right, so now the bottom's in a good spot with our seam. All right, let's overlap everything nice and easy. And just take your fingers, start working some of the soapy water out. And go around. See what I'm saying? I'm working it. You can work it to the right, you can work it to the left. Any bubbles that you see, just play with them. Before you get any tools involved, just make a pass, just like this. See how it's coming out on the end? All right, actually it's good. I got blue paint on it. That's all right. We'll take that off. That's from my finger. See, I was supposed to make sure my fingers were clean, but that'll come off. That's not a problem. I'll show you how to get that off in a little bit. All right. And see, I'm just working the soapy water out. Soapy water gives you time with vinyl to get the bubbles out. I've often seen people stick a big decal on a window or something bone dry. Can't do that, man. You're trapping air is what you're doing. Whereas this, if you see we got bumps, but then when you push, see, the soapy water's taking the air along with it. So see how that's settling down nice. And if you got something, a little dimple, whatever, that's going to happen, man. Don't go crazy. Because you may have something in the metal of the tack or the tack cup. All right, so keep working, keep going around. Because it'll move a little, see, like that. You got to play with it. And just work on it. As it's drying, pick it up again. See if any bubbles came back. Push them out. Whatever side they're closer to. If they're closer this way, push them this way. If they're closer this way, you could also push them this way. But you'll see, it'll settle down nice. Try not to use any heat. A lot of guys like to go for the heat gun. Because the heat gun, what it does is you want this thing to take its time drying. And the heat gun just makes things dry very, very fast. Which that really hardly ever benefits you, having it dry so quick. All right, and if you got a bubble that's not coming out, work it to the edge, because that's where your seam is. Like, see this bubble? Say, let's work it this way. Sometimes you'll just get an area where you gotta tweak it. See, like that, I pulled it tight, I got that bubble out. And like I said, don't worry about that paint. I'll show you how to get that off. That's my fault. I should have cleaned my hands. Trying to do 10 things at once here today. We're having a very busy day. Not a great day to shoot this video, but I've been wanting to do it for a long time for you guys. All right, so see how nice and smooth everything's getting now. The edges too are going to start to hang over and dry. And you could pull this up a little if you're hanging off the edge and you want to, you know, get it closer to bring some of that in. See what I'm doing? That's the beauty of that soapy water, man. It gives you time. Say, I'm pulling it in, working it. And just play with this thing till you get it to a point where you like it. All right, so I'm going this way, that way. And I like to do it with my hands rather than the tools, because sometimes with the tools you could rip it, you could, you know, mess the vinyl up. Handcrafted, hand installed. Say, go like that. You'll see a bubble here, bubble there. Push it, get that air out. The bubble is just either an air trapped under there, or water, or the vinyl's cocked a certain way, see? And you can take that off, work it all out. Looking good, man. It's getting there. It's getting there. And you got time. With the soapy water, don't think, oh, it's going to dry in 30 seconds. Nope. You have probably about 10-15 minutes to play with this thing before it really starts drying. Seeing if it's too close to the edge like that is, yeah, lift it, pull it, bring it in, and keep working. And I see what I'm saying about the seam. The seam may be off a little when you get done with yours, but it's not a big deal, because that's going to be on the bottom. That's what you're going to see on the top. So make sure the top looks the best. When I was a kid, I used to clean my buddy's uncle's car, and he always told us, I don't care what the rest of the car looks like, just make sure the hood shines like glass, because this way when I'm driving down the road, I'll look out over that hood and I'll feel like I'm driving a car that's just sparkling. There you go. Say, we're getting there. Yeah, this bottom you won't see. This will be under, facing the bottom. And then just watch your edges. See over here, you got a little on the edge. All right, I'm going to play with this thing a little. I'm going to put it down to dry. And then when it's dry, we'll put the stars on. But let this thing dry good. Let it dry for a couple hours at least, because you don't want it moving around after you get it exactly where you want it. You don't want to pick it up, rushing to put it together. See? That's pretty cool. So now you can see it's getting there. And then once we get the stars in this area, it's going to look really good. All right, guys, I'll be back in a little bit. Once she's dry, we'll start putting some stars on, and we'll put this thing back together. But just work it with your fingers, get the bubbles out. If you had to lift this at this point even and put it back on again, you could. You absolutely could, because it's not dry yet. And don't forget, if you get something trapped, like a big air bubble, work it towards the seam. See how I'm bringing it down towards the seam? See, it's moving. Because as you work it, you are going to get air bubbles because you're moving something around. See how it's working? See, look, towards the seam, towards the seam, towards the seam, and out. out the end. See, there goes that big air bubble. See, vinyl, you just got to manipulate it. You got to get it to do what you want it to do. But it's not hard to work with. It's really good to work with. All right. All right, I'll be back in a little bit. We'll get this thing all wrapped up. Getting there, and we'll clean that up. Okay, so there we go. I took my blue spot off, and how you do that, you get something on, grease vinyl, grease paint, whatever. I love using Goo Gone. It's good stuff. Spray a little on, don't get crazy with it. It'll take it right off. And that's my fault. I should have cleaned my hands. I wasn't paying attention too well. But decal's on. It's going to dry a little more. You can press it out. And before you put the stars on, take your bracket of choice, or whatever bracket your particular tack comes with, and you're going to want to put it in place so that you could see just how much room are you working with. And now this is a choice also if you wanted to paint this bracket blue, but the original tack, I don't know if the entire end cap was blue and it had a bracket underneath. It's been a while since I've seen one, but most guys will just leave this, or if they have an older tack with a chrome bracket, it looks pretty good. And this thing, when you point the tack up, it's going to be sitting about there. So now you have your choice of stars. The bigger ones will work with that bracket. The smaller ones will work as well. So depending on your tack, and a lot of guys will use these small ones. If they do the smaller 2 5/8 gauges, they work great for that. I've also seen guys stagger them with up at the big, the little, the big, the little, just to break it up a little more. But we're going to go with the big boys on this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of mock this tack up, because I still have to wire it on the inside. So this isn't the final time it's going together. I'm just going to put this thing together to put the stars on it to get them where I want them to sit. All right, give me a second. Let me pop this tack together. So we got the back of the tack on now. I got the cup mounted to the tack, and this is just mocked up. This isn't the final mounting, because I still have to wire the tack and run the wires out of there. But we give you 6 stars, and what I've done is I've cut them down. I'm going to use 4, I believe, on this one, because if you look at the distance, if you start in the center, that's about all you're going to have room for. See what I'm saying? If you put 1 there, 1 there. Actually, can I even do 4? No. 1, 2. Yeah, those are pretty big. I could put 4 of the small ones on there, but let's see. Or I can go way down here and I could probably put 4. So let's start. And guys, there's no right or wrong way to do this. You do it however you want to do it. This is your tack. Don't tell people, let people tell you what to do. And what I'll do is I don't use the soapy water for the stars because they're so small. I'll trim them down. I'll center it between that and the bracket. And how these work, you just kind of rub it. It sticks to vinyl. And slowly peel it back against itself. When you pull a top layer of vinyl, you always pull it back down. Don't ever pull it up, because you're going to take the vinyl along with it. All right, so let's do the other side now, and then we're going to work our way towards the center. All right, I trim this one down. And like I said, man, there's no rhyme or reason to this. No one's going to get out a ruler and start measuring. Just kind of center them between, looks best, and it gives you room to move your bracket around. That's good right there. Rub it out good. So that one's got a little air bubble. You could always too take like a pin and pop that bubble. Actually, it's coming out now anyway. Yeah, you may get a bubble, but on the white you don't really see it. That's what I talked about earlier, why if you use the soapy water. But to use the soapy water on the stars, it's kind of unnecessary. Boop. 2. All right, we're going to space these. Let's see, we're going to put 1 there. 1 there-ish. Yeah, I guess that'll look all right. Cool. All right, let me trim this down a little more. And that's the beauty of this thing. You do it how you want to do it. You do it with what fits your particular tack. So you could put these like this. You could turn these however you want to do them. Let's put that one right there. All right, rub it down. And that's why we use the clear masking on top, so that you could see through it to see exactly where this star is going to land. And we give you the extras so that if you mess one up, not a problem. Peel it, stick another one on there. We'll put that one right there-ish. Rub that one down. And what's neat is, like, this is going on my own 55 right behind me. When you put one of these on the dash, it's really cool because you look in the windshield and it's looking right. I mean, you cannot miss it. It's red, it's white, it's blue. Stars and stripes. Nice. All right, man. Sorry for all the glare and stuff you're seeing in it, but that's the finished product, basically. Not too hard, right? There you go. Now jump over to our website, racecityretro.com, where you can get these. As of right now, this will set you back 25 bucks shipped to your door. That's not bad, right? America, you know, American shipping. And like I said, it's a nice addition to your tack. If you got a cool old retro tack, vintage tack like this one. And this is the FST 8000 Bosch tack that I used on this particular one. And it's a great tack. Like I said, I hope somebody gets them back in. I'm sorry, you've seen a lot of glares and everything. I have a pretty bright light on, but that gives you an idea what it's all about. It looks really good, right? And it didn't cost you ridiculous money. The original ones, whoo, I saw an NOS one once. The guy wanted $750 for it. I don't know about you, but I could spend $750 on a lot better stuff with my 55 than a tack. I'd rather do this. This tack was, I believe it was around $150. And I did what I had to do to it. That's its future home, where it's going to sit. Yes, I'm going to drill some holes in my dash and run the wires through another hole, but pretty neat, huh? As you're walking up on the car and you see that thing hanging out on the dash, really draws a lot of attention to your car. And for 25 bucks, man, you cannot go wrong. It's a pretty cool piece. Comes with the 2 sets of stars. You can get the smaller stars if these are too big for you. But that's a pretty cool looking piece, right? Inside, outside. It's cool no matter where you look at it. It's cool. And you could do a column mount too with this particular tack. That's the flat bracket on the bottom. You could put it on the column, which actually you could see evidence this car had a tack on the column. Really appreciate you guys coming along for the ride on this one. Be sure to like us. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to share this if you think you know somebody that would like this tack. I'm going to put the link for it down below. But if you're watching on regular TV, just go to our website, racecityretro.com. You can find our tack kit along with 1,000 other automotive-related products. You cannot go to our website and leave empty-handed. There is more cool stuff than you could shake a stick at. So be sure to check it out. And really appreciate you guys joining me today. Put down in the comments what you think. Put down if you think it's a good idea. Get you that cool Stars and Stripes tack for a lot less money than a real one. And like I said earlier in this video, the original ones are too hard to find and they're too beat up and too rough. Thank you guys. Take care now.